Hi, David.
Hello.
David, we're going to interview you for our viewers who have not had a chance to meet you. David, where is the place that you were born?
I was born in Syria, Qamishli, northeast Syria.
And where did you grow up?
I grew up in a town called Idlib.
And where is Idlib located?
Idlib is in West Syria, in the northwest, close to Turkey, and Latakia, which is Latakia, on the Mediterranean.
And what's the population composition over there in Idlib?
In Idlib, it's about 99% Muslim, Sunni. There were about 1% Christian. Some were Orthodox and some were Protestant, Presbyterian. My father was a Presbyterian reverend in town.
And David, without making this a cross-examination, and me asking you direct questions, tell us a little bit about your childhood and teenage years growing up there in Idlib.
Oh, it was very interesting. Idlib is a very interesting town. Growing up, my father as a reverend had good friends as Muslim, and I went to Islamic school for my preschool. I'm a child. You don't see anything and hear anything. But growing up, when you walk down the road and people making the sign of the cross and they spit on it. You go to school and they tell you to you have to convert or you're going to be killed. Or in school programs where they discriminate against me. I had actually one teacher have me take my clothes off to go to the camp director naked.
Why do you think they did that to you?
Because they don't view non-Muslims or anything as human. They view us as kafar. At that point,
what does that mean, kafar?
Kafar is non-believers. Your life is probably a bird has got more value of life than you do.
So you could you could be Jewish or Christian or
yes.
or an atheist, and you would still be a kafar.
Yes. So here's the composition. The Orthodox community used to call us the Presbyterian because they were the Anglican church that came and established a very small community of Presbyterian church. They would call us as Yehud. Now at that point I was a child. I didn't know my mom's background or anything like that, but that's a very dangerous name calling because a Yehudi, or the Jew, is very hated and they get killed like that.
So what can you say in a few sentences about what Syria means to you and what type of country it is and its history?
Well, Syria has a very, very deep history. However, the period that I grew up in Syria, it was a very difficult period and very divided period where sects were being overpowered by other sects. I saw the Muslim Brotherhood fight the government. I've witnessed Assad regime destroy the town of Hama. I've witnessed the Alawiyat that were oppressed for 1400 years, also oppressed the Christians and Muslims. There's a lot of different fractions in Syria. You have the Christians, you have the Syrian Christians, you have the Alawiyat, you have the Druze, you have the Circassians. There's many. You have also the Kurds. There's many different minority fractions. However, the majority of Syrians are Sunni, and the Sunni are non-accepting to anyone, and they are extremely hostile to all different fractions that are non-Sunni.
And in its history, before Islam ever came about, like who lived in today's Syria?
Well, Syria was, it's very well known. It was, most of it was part of Israel, the kingdom of Israel. The 12 tribes of Israel were there. There were many communities of Jewish. Idlib had a Jewish community. Aleppo had a humongous and very, very, very old Jewish community. There were synagogues that were discovered in Syria that were ancient, thousands of years old. As you know, the Assyrians, the Christian Assyrians, and then there were some Greeks that settled, and there's some Armenians that settled. But prior to Islam, Syria was basically Jewish, and then it was Christian and some pagans, up until the 7th century when Islam came and they made people convert forcefully, and they treated the Christians very badly, and the Jews also were not treated well at all.
What would you say is the driving force, the motivation behind Islam trying to eradicate or convert the other religions?
Well, it's in Islam. It's in a religion where, the whole world has to be Muslim. They have to submit to the will of Allah. And therefore, in any way, they want to achieve that. And it's not just in Syria. They want to achieve that throughout the world. That is their goal. The world has to become Muslim and submit to Muhammad and Allah.
And what is that called in Arabic?
That's jihad. It's jihad. They have to have the jihad. They have to spread. That's their goal. They have no other goal other than making people submit. And if they don't, they die.
Based on your experience, do you think Islam is actually possible without jihad?
Islam is not possible without jihad. Islam is a very, very forceful, non-forgiving, not accepting, if you want to call it a religion, I call it a cult. Because once you are a Muslim, you change your mind in Syria or all the Muslim countries, actually the closest person to you has to kill you. And then if they don't, then the other person, and if they don't, then so if the father, the brother, the cousin, and the second cousin, all that stuff, they are obligated to kill you if you say, I don't believe in Islam.
It's like Hotel California. You can check out, but you can never leave.
You can never, ever, ever, ever leave. That's what Islam is. Islam is not a peaceful religion. It's not a religion of peace. There is no peace in Islam. The only time you get peace in Islam is if you take the Shahada and say, I'm Muslim. Then and then you are
a lesser type of Muslim if you're not born into it.
Well, no, I mean they take you in, and it's Islam. It's completely different than any other religion. When you convert somebody, you get elevated, and you get more virgins, in heaven, and more rivers of alcohol or whatever your heart desires. It could be Johnny Walker Blue. That's their definition of heaven.
And how did it feel for you growing up in Syria and going to school there and being what was known to be about you not a Sunni Muslim or a Muslim at all? Like, what was your experience like, if you can sum it up?
Lots of discrimination. I will tell you this, I am not a stupid guy. I went to college and all of my grades were just passing. And I know very well, I did very well on my testing. I was not treated very well. Like I said, I was told that we were going to be killed, and there were a lot of discrimination against the Christians. The Syria and the Islamic world does not accept you if you're not a Muslim.
So if you take your experience that you just described and look at today's events, whereby almost miraculously, the former leader, Assad, in a dusk and night style operation, was flown out of the country, and seamlessly this new guy, I forgot his name, Al-Julani, or
July Mahmoud al-Shara.
who happens to be also from Idlib, right?
I don't know if he's from Idlib, but I know he was an ISIS member.
Yeah.
I know he was in control of Idlib, and I know he is loyal to Turkey, as Idlib is part of Turkey. However, coming to that and how that became is very troubling. In the beginning, when this started, there was the Syrian Liberation Army that wanted to liberate Syria and make it into a democracy where actually they were calling for equality, where a Christian can be a president. Under the current constitution, previously, only a Muslim can be the president in Syria. Other than that, you are a traitor if you're not a Muslim. So what had happened, as the Syrian Liberation Army was taking parts of Syria, the Syrian regime, I believe that Jolani was part of, was imprisoned, or there's a lot of the ISIS members that were imprisoned, as Syria was actually fighting and against the Islamic Brotherhood. Islamic Brotherhood is really ISIS.
Tell us a little bit more about those structures. So where does that all originate from, and what is the ideology, if there is one coherent one at all, for all these branches of what we refer to as radical Islam? There is the Muslim Brotherhood, right? It comes straight from the Cairo University. Is that fair to say?
Well, Egypt is the central hub for the Islamic Brotherhood, and the Islamic Brotherhood also goal is to eradicate any non-Muslims. They're anti-Israel, they're anti-Christian. Egypt, everybody knows, where women have to wear the cross on their wrist, because what they do is they kidnap them, and then, they are allowed to see, and they actually not on the wrist, they put it right here. So that way they could find their girls that are kidnapped by the extremist Muslims, and most of the times they are not found. You got ISIS. ISIS is just another branch, another name. ISIS is Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. That came as the United States went to Iraq, and then all these things.
What is it called in Arabic?
ISIS.
Daesh. And what does that stand for?
Daesh.
Dawlat.
Dawlat. I don't know.
But it's an acronym.
Yeah, it's an acronym. It's the same thing. It's basically the Islamic Syria and Iraq. Then you have another fraction that was in Syria that Jolani went with, which is Jabhat al-Nusra. Another name, another group of the same sect, the same ideology.
Is that a form of Wahhabi Islam, or is that different?
It is definitely a form of Wahhabi. Wahhabi Islam is basically ISIS, Daesh, Jabhat al-Nusra, Muslim Brotherhood. That's radical Islam.
So where is the origin of Wahhabi Islam?
Oh, the Quran, Al-Quran.
And is there a geographic center where this is?
Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia. So is it fair to assume or say that, the clerics in Saudi Arabia kind of having this proxy environment through which they basically set up organizations that take the heat for being blamed for certain outcrops, like Islamic Brotherhood and
Absolutely, they have lots of money and they support those groups. But really, the real country that supports that is Qatar. Qatar is one of the biggest supporter of ISIS, Jabhat al-Nusra, Hamas, all the Islamic groups that refuse anyone else but Islam.
And basically, is that a fair statement to say that Qatar knows how to operate in the Western world by putting on a nice image over its actual reality, like a wolf in a sheep's coat? Is that fair?
100%. Qatar has destroyed England. They have made them woke. They control England, and they pumped a lot of money into our university. This woke movement is funded by Qatar. The woke movement is nothing but an Islamist anti-humanity movement.
And let me ask you this: how does Islam view slavery, and how does Islam view LGBTQ people?
Well, first of all, you are allowed to own slaves in Islam. In Islam, having slaves is permitted. You know, as for LGBTQ, well, let's just face it. They have something called Ghulman. Ghulman means a kid that has not had hair yet, and they could have their way with him. And it's still going on in the Gulf region. LGBTQ, openly gay people, they want to prosecute, but also there's something in Islam where a teaching where it tells them, you know, whatever that you do in behind closed doors, don't let it go out, and don't show it to people. So they may be against it in the dark, but maybe they're actually doing it, you know, in their own homes.
So it's like a don't ask, don't tell type of environment.
Yeah, I mean they don't accept openly gay people. They don't accept the LGBTQ community, you know, and many Muslim countries that will kill you and stone you.
So let's focus on what's really important. You know, what do you think Islam overall is trying to do right now in the year 2025 in terms of coming into the Western world and those societies, and what do you think is the intended agenda?
Well, they come in and they say they are peaceful. I grew up in Syria, and you cannot tell me Islam is peaceful. There's no such thing as peace in Islam. I fought many fights, all right? And if I was weak, I would have been ran over. Islam is not peaceful. Islam is a hostile takeover cult that wants to convert the Western world to their proxy, and once they control it, now they want to eradicate Israel. They are not happy that the U.S. supports Israel, as we should 100%, as Israel has the right to exist, as it is the ancestral land of the Jewish people, has always been for almost 4,000 years.